wanted to show how you can boot your Mac into Windows when using an external GPU. As of now, you can't just do a regular Bootcamp boot into Windows. It'll freeze at the startup screen. So I have the latest 13-inch MacBook Pro, and the external GPU I'm using is the Radeon RX Vega 56. So first thing you need to do is download an EFI file and actually boot to that. So the simplest way I can explain it is, let's just use Google, and the exact one is called Apple _ set _ OS EFI, as you see. I already did this, and just put GitHub in there, GITHUB, GitHub, and that'll take you this. I know it's on the releases page, and that's the file that you want. So what I'm gonna do is just leave that on the screen for a second. I think you could all read it. Let's make it huge. Riding solo, not sure how this is coming out on the video. All right. So it's going to download to your typical downloads folder. So now the next part is kind of important. You need to create a file structure exactly as explained. So I'm just going to do it on the desktop. I'm going to create a new folder, and that new folder is called EFI. Okay, I have my EFI folder. Within that folder, I want to create a new folder, okay, called boot, B-O-O-T. There we go. So now let's take a look at that EFI file that we just downloaded. Okay, I'm going to copy it over into this boot folder we just created. Okay, and it's called Apple _ set _ os.efi. We're going to want to rename that to boot x64.efi. Boot x64.efi, B-O-O-T-X as an X-ray, .efi. Excellent. So now you can go ahead and take this EFI folder as it is, plop it on a USB drive, hold down the options key, boot to that, and you will boot to your external GPU. It'll work. A couple things. First, you have to make sure that your startup disk is Windows. So yes, folks, you're going to be switching back and forth. Every time you want Windows and external GPU, you got to log into Mac, make sure that the startup disk is Windows, not Mac, and then back the other way when you want to use Mac. So you should know how to do that if you're already doing Bootcamp, but I'll pull it up real quick. Your startup disks are usually used a shortcut. Startup disk is under Applications, Utilities. I look silly. Sorry. It's under System Preferences. So under your settings, the System Preferences, and there's a startup disk here somewhere. Okay, startup disk. And again, you're gonna have to go in here, unlock it, put your credentials in, and you do have to set that boot to be Windows. So you are selected the Windows on, okay. Great, and like I said, just go ahead, plop a USB stick in there, copy this EFI folder on there. As it reboots, hold down the options key, select it's going to say EFI boot, and you're good to go. The problem I have with that is who wants to carry around a USB stick or have a USB stick available for when you want to boot to an external GPU? I mean, the new MacBook Pros, they don't even have a USB port on them. It's all Thunderbolt 3. And they got the ones that have Thunderbolt. But anyway, why not just partition your internal disk so you can do it anytime you want with no need for an external peripheral? So let's do that. For this one, we're going to want to partition the disk and just basically drop this EFI file in there. So for that, you do want to go to Applications, Utilities, Disk Utility. Okay, it's going to look something like this. Okay, you're going to want to go all the way up to the top. It might be named a little different for you. Apple SSD something something. It depends on your version of Mac. After you have that selected, on the top here, you have all these tabs. You want the partition tab. Great. So this is basically showing your partitions. I got an 81 gigabyte for Bootcamp, and the rest is used by Mac. You want to click the little Add button underneath this pie chart. And what you want to do is you want to make this new partition, which is this one in blue, as small as possible. It's kind of hard since we're in the gigabytes range. You can't just manually edit it, trust me. I tried. So just drag this thing as small as you can, but no smaller than about 80 megs. It takes a fine hand to do that. The 20 megs, let me just see here. Actually, what if I do put 80 megs in there? And then the important thing here is give it a name. I just call it EFI, that's how I remember it. You can name it whatever the heck you want. But the format has to be this ms-dot fat. Okay, all these other ones will not work. All right, so we're gonna try manually putting 80 megabytes. Let's try and apply that. Say yes to the warning. Continue. That worked. If you make the partition too small, it will give an error. Basically what that means is just try to make it a little bigger. We're successful. So as you can see in Disk Utility, we have this new partition called EFI. So how does that look? Well, within Finder, I now have this EFI directory. You know, that's your Bootcamp, probably used to that. Bam. So all we have to do now is move this EFI folder. Again, EFI, and there's a, let me make it big. Then there's a boot folder in there. Okay, and then there's that file we downloaded from GitHub, this apple_set_os.efi. We renamed it to bootx.efi. We want to take that entire folder structure, so right from the root, the EFI, and move it into that new partition we made. Done. Now, again, we set the startup disk to Windows. It's absolutely necessary. If you don't do it, you'll realize you forgot because it will boot into Mac. So restart. Hold the Options key down. Okay. Now you notice, before you probably only had this Windows. I hope this is showing up in this Macintosh HD. Now you have this EFI boot is what it shows up as. Select that. And there you go. Booted to Windows. As you can see, it's on the external display. We are good to go. AMD Connect. This is AMD. and you're all set. So one note on this, the first time you do this, it may not display on your external display where you have your eGPU set up. That's probably because it depends on your graphics card, the drivers. So first time you have to install your drivers. So NVIDIA, AMD, you just go to the standard site, install the drivers, it'll detect it since your EFI boot, and then the next reboot, you'll get it on the external monitor. And just for completeness, come on, why did I put it down there? And you get it. All right. If there's any questions, let me know.